Imagine reaching the 90th minute of a football match. Your legs are heavy. Your lungs are burning. Your mind has already started preparing for the final whistle. Then the fourth official lifts the board. 5 minutes. 6 minutes. 7. Suddenly, the finish line moves. And that is where stoppage time becomes more than time. It becomes a psychological event. Because football is built around expectation. For most of the match, players know the rhythm. They know when the final stages are approaching. They know when the last push begins. And then the clock tells them, not yet. That tiny disruption can change the way an entire team thinks. Chapter 1. The 90-minute mindset. A footballer spends an entire match making decisions at speed. Press. Pass. Cover. Turn. Sprint. By the final stages, physical fatigue is obvious. But mental fatigue is quieter. It appears as one extra touch. One delayed pass. One missed marking assignment. One moment when a player sees the right decision and makes it half a second too late. Now imagine believing the match is almost finished and suddenly realizing you still have minutes left. The brain has to reset its expectations. The player who was thinking, just get through this, must suddenly think, we still have to perform. And that matters. Because pressure isn't created only by the opponent. Sometimes, it is created by our expectation of when the struggle is supposed to end. Chapter 2. Playing the clock. This is where stoppage time becomes psychologically strange. Players stop thinking only about football. They start thinking about the clock. How much longer? Can we hold the lead? Should we take another risk? Should we slow the game down? The team chasing the match becomes more aggressive. The team protecting the result can become more cautious. And both reactions can create mistakes. A player becomes obsessed with preserving the score. Another becomes obsessed with finding the equalizer. The clock becomes another opponent. And unlike a defender, you cannot dribble past it. That is why the final minutes can feel completely different from the rest of the match. The football may look the same, but the mental context has changed. Chapter 3. When every decision gets heavier. By this stage, every decision carries more emotional weight. A clearance is no longer just a clearance. It feels like survival. A missed chance feels catastrophic. A yellow card feels dangerous. A simple pass suddenly feels like a test of nerve. The body is tired. The crowd is louder. The pressure is higher. And there is less mental space for mistakes. This doesn't mean the brain simply switches off. It means the margin for error can become smaller when fatigue and pressure arrive together. That's why late-game mistakes can feel so brutal. They often come from ordinary actions, performed under extraordinary circumstances. Chapter 4. The New Time Paradox. Football is now trying to reduce unnecessary delays. The latest IFAB changes include tighter measures around time wasting, including countdown procedures for delayed throw-ins and goal kicks and a time limit for substitutions. The objective is simple: more effective playing time. But psychologically, there is an interesting paradox. The more precisely lost time is accounted for, the harder it may become for players to rely on an old instinct that the game simply ends at 90. They still know stoppage time is coming, but they do not know exactly how much. And the minimum amount displayed can increase if more time is subsequently lost. That uncertainty matters, because humans perform differently when an endpoint is predictable, compared with when the endpoint keeps moving. The hardest part of stoppage time may not be the extra running. It may be the uncertainty. Chapter 5. The breaking point. Eventually, every match reaches a psychological threshold. The player stops thinking about executing the perfect plan and starts thinking about getting through the moment. That is when tactical discipline can become fragile. Defenders stop stepping forward. Midfielders choose safer options. Attackers force the final pass. The shape becomes stretched. The match becomes emotional. And suddenly, a team that looked completely organized for 90 minutes can look completely different. Not because they forgot how to play, but because the final minutes demand mental discipline when almost everything around them is pushing toward panic. Chapter 6. Who wins the last 5 minutes? The most dangerous team in stoppage time isn't always the fitter team. Sometimes, it is the calmer one. The captain who keeps communicating. The midfielder who continues making simple decisions. The defender who doesn't dive into a desperate challenge. The striker who still believes the next chance will come. That's the real advantage. Not pretending fatigue doesn't exist. Managing the response to it. Not pretending pressure isn't there. Controlling what you do with it. Because the final minutes aren't just a physical test. They are a test of emotional discipline. When the clock becomes the story. So the next time a match reaches 90 minutes, watch the players differently. Don't just watch the scoreboard. Watch their body language. Watch their decisions. Watch who starts looking at the clock. And who keeps playing football. Because stoppage time isn't simply extra time. It is extra uncertainty. Extra decisions. Extra pressure. And sometimes, one final psychological test. The clock may tell you the match is almost over. But the mind doesn't always hear it that way. And maybe that's why the most important moment of a football match isn't always the moment when the goal is scored. Sometimes, it's the moment when the players realize the finish line has moved and decide not to panic.